In the shelters that we've opened, we've seen a reduction in crime.
It's the kind of tough but important conversations the city of Portland is having right now. How to combat a rampant drug use and homelessness issue across the metro area in a way that still protects its residents and the local economy. Community member Carrie Henderson lives across from an overnight shelter in North Portland and is among many in attendance who believes the city's plan to add several new shelter spaces, including a 200-bed facility in Northwest Portland, will cause more harm than good.
I think that where they're choosing to put these shelters is frankly unacceptable. You're bringing them into residential neighborhoods.
Mayor Wilson, Portland police, and city council members spent the evening defending the city's plan.
I'm really frustrated what I heard today. What I've seen about the shelter across the street from my house, it's not conducive for a residential neighborhood.
Every developer that's built apartments in the Pearl District is either underwater right now or barely at a break even.
Rudinsky says that shelters should be instead put in industrial or mixed-use areas so that people can get the help that they need, all while preserving residential communities.
There's a lot of comments that have to do with the fact that this is not a homeless issue, but it's really an addiction and mental health issue.
Portland City leaders addressing frustrated residents in the Pearl District concerned with a 200-bed low-barrier shelter coming to their neighborhood. Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us for K2 News at 11, everyone. I'm Barry Mangold. The city plans to put that shelter at a warehouse on 14th and Northrop in Northwest Portland.
A long line outside the Armory in Northwest Portland. Hundreds of residents from some of Portland's most affluent neighborhoods lined up to question leaders about plans to build a shelter in the Pearl District.
The Pearl has had a shelter here for 5 or 6 years. It's called the Navigation Center. And despite the best efforts and best intentions of everybody, it continues to be, some people call it a disaster.
Another meeting tonight. Neighbors in Portland's Pearl District still pushed back on a 200-bed homeless shelter planned for a vacant office building. Mayor Keith Wilson and all 3 of the district city councilors tried to smooth things over. Portland Mayor Keith Wilson doubled down on his controversial homeless shelter plan Monday night. For weeks, neighbors begged city leaders to listen to concerns over this proposed site at Northwest 15th and Northrop Street in the Pearl District.
The Pearl is just now getting back on its feet. Economically, it's very fragile at this moment.
People like Linda Witt fear the shelter will disrupt local businesses. This 200-bed low-barrier shelter would let people stay without sobriety checks.
The people that we're talking about need specialized treatment services and recovery so that they can get their lives back.
Today on Your Voice, Your Vote, 2 new overnight shelters for homeless Portlanders scheduled to open tomorrow. The overnight shelters part of Portland Mayor Keith Wilson's plan to end unsheltered homelessness. A third scheduled to open in September in the upscale Pearl District. On today's show, Pearl District residents voiced their concerns.
It doesn't really solve the problem. The problem really is the addiction crisis that's being rampant downtown in the Pearl.
Their message to the city of Portland on the overnight shelter coming to Northwest Portland next month. Starting tomorrow, 2 overnight homeless shelters, emergency shelters, will open in Portland. One is at the Church of the Nazarene shelter, 9715 Southeast Powell Boulevard. The other at the St. Stephen's shelter, 1432 Southwest 13th Avenue. And in September, another shelter will open. It's about a mile away from St. Stephen's. This one is in the Pearl District. It's called the Northwest Northrop Shelter at 14th and Northrop. That'll bring the total number of overnight emergency shelters to 5. And Portland Mayor Keith Wilson's goal is to have 1,500 beds open by December 1st. Joining me now is Bruce Studer, president of the Pearl District Neighborhood Association, and Todd Zarnitz, president of the Northwest District Association. The St. Stephen's and Northwest Northrop shelters are just a mile apart. The shelters are part of Mayor Wilson's plan to end unsheltered homelessness. Do you both agree that overnight emergency shelters are needed in Portland? Bruce, let's begin with you.
Well, I think what we need to do is address the problem, and the problem really is drug addiction and mental health, and a lot of it's connected to the drug addiction. And these overnight shelters don't really address the problem. The problem really is the addiction crisis that's rampant downtown in the Pearl.
Tom, what do you think? Your thoughts on overnight shelters?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bruce said it right. I mean, this is a cancerous drug culture in crisis, and these shelter plans don't address that at all. And I think if you listen to what Mayor Wilson says, he's like, we got to get rid of these tents. It's not a tent problem. It's a human problem of people living horrendous drug-addicted lives. And I think the plans need to help get people back to living healthy and productive lives. And quite frankly, there's nothing about these plans that say anything about it.
I want to let our viewers know that we did invite the mayor and other city representatives to take part in this discussion. They declined. Bruce, I want to go back to you. Pearl District Neighborhood Association hosted a town hall last Monday. You had about 600 people there talking about the Northrop shelter. Mayor Wilson was there to address the crowd as well. What are you hearing from your neighbors out there?
Well, I think, the neighbors have been living this crisis for the last couple of years, especially on the I-405 corridor. And they're really concerned. This location is just probably the worst location you could possibly put this shelter, especially because it's between, it's right against the I-405 viaducts. And, the state has now said that we don't have money to clean up that space anymore. And, especially during the pandemic, that was just, an out of control, just terrible, terrible place. And we clearly see that that's probably what it's going to go back to.
What are you hearing from the neighbors out there? Heard a few boos when it came to the mayor when he was talking there at that town hall the other night. What are you hearing?
Well, they're worried about the concentration. So the Pearl District already has experience with a homeless shelter. We've got the Navigation Center on Northwest Nato Parkway, and it's been there for 5 years, and it's been a troubled 5 years. It started off great, then the pandemic hit, and now it's with all best intentions, it's struggling. There's tents outside, there's graffiti outside, there's trash outside, there's cars and RVs parked, and that's what they fear is going to happen to the Northrop site. And the Northrop site sits in 3,000, there's 3,000 residents within 1,000 feet. There's no other place in the city there's 3,000 residents within 1,000 feet of a shelter or any place else. The Pearl District is one of the densest places in the country. We have an outreach program that we fund privately, and they go out to those tents and ask those people and tell them where their service is. And for the most part, they don't want to go to a shelter. They want to stay in their tent.
At last Monday's town hall meeting, we heard this from the director of Portland Solutions. This is the city office that oversees shelter services. Skylar Brocker-Knapp shared details about the nighttime shelter. Let's play that.
And the site is going to host adults of all genders, so men and women, and the site is going to host 40 participants at opening. I know there's been numbers flying around, so I just wanted to clarify some numbers. We're going to start with 40 people and kind of ease in to operations at full speed. We're scaling up to 200 people by December 1st. This is a maximum capacity, so we don't anticipate that we're going to be under full utilization, just given our other shelters and our experiences. The shelter is low barrier, so there's no requirement for an ID or to be sober, but drugs are not allowed on the premises. Hours of operation are going to be 8 p.m. to 6 a.m.
What else would you guys like the city to do when it comes to these shelters?
I think in a way, the problem is sort of this low barrier idea that the city is really entrenched on. And, I think when the audience heard that there's going to be no IDs checked, the question was like, well, how do we know who these people are? Are they dangerous people? Are they sex offenders? We have a dance studio that's 500 feet away from this location. How will that be checked? And Skylar basically said, like, well, legally they have to tell us if that's the case. And, that got scoffed at, as it should. And I think the city should be making these little concessions like, okay, maybe it's a good idea to check IDs and find out who these people are. Instead, they're doubling down on, this sort of very, not even low barrier, but anything goes. And that just spells trouble.
What else should the city be doing here, Bruce?
Well, I think I agree with Todd. The studio that's 536 feet away have 800 kids that go there after school, before school, and during the summer. And I asked the question to the mayor and the city as to, are you going to check, are these these child predators, are they sex offenders? And this self-report, I mean, the audience. If you played the clip, the audience would tell they were visibly upset.
What's the solution? Not nighttime shelters, Todd.
Well, I think the solution is getting people back to living healthy and productive lives, and that seems to be left out of this. In fact, if you listen to what the city says, they rarely mention drugs at all, which I think is a fundamental misstep. I mean, this is being driven by a cancerous synthetic drug crisis in culture, and none of that is being recognized at all.
How do shelters get sited? And how are sites selected, and how are neighborhoods engaged in those selections?
We have a site development team, so they scour all available properties across the city. Right now, they're engaged with 6 different property owners across the entire city in every other district, not District 4, for other shelters that we're negotiating right now. So we look at a few different elements, but basically space, the layout of the building, availability, pricing, proximity to transportation, like I mentioned, and proximity to different services. So we've cited, I've now oversee about 12 different shelters across the entire city of Portland. They're in all different districts, and there's a lot of different aspects that go into that. But we've learned a lot about exactly what's most helpful, where shelters can be successful, and some of those aspects I just laid out. So transportation is a huge aspect, but also the building itself. And then we have a budget, obviously, that we're working under, as the mayor's mentioned in a lot of different presentations and as we negotiated with different government entities. So we look at what we can fit in our price range as well. Yes, I mentioned the 1,000-foot flyers that we hand out. So the mayor's plan, he talked about an engagement zone and engaging folks in that surrounding area. So what we've done, and you can go on our website and look at the different aspects that will be in that immediate area, but those are all based on good neighbor agreements and other negotiations we've had with a lot of other shelters of what people have asked for. So I think trash pickup, graffiti removal, priority camp removal, priority car and RV towing. So those are things that people have asked for. Outreach and engagement to individuals that they see in that vicinity. So they wanted outreach there. They wanted a presence on site. We found that to be successful. And then obviously meeting with the community every 2 weeks. So if you don't know about PEMO, the Public Environment Management Office, we meet with folks, 16 different meetings every 2 weeks. And we meet with individuals. We have a Northwest meeting, and you can bring anything that you think is a city issue to those meetings. We create a punch list, we go through it very quickly, and then we come back to you 2 weeks later and say, okay, we got rid of this graffiti, we helped with this trash can, you mentioned this person, we connected them with outreach, you have this permitting issue, we can connect you with the permitting bureau. So if you're interested in those meetings, that's another way to get involved. They're called the problem solver meetings, and they happen every 2 weeks. So I'm happy to get folks that information.
So, okay, there's a lot of concern about sanitation, cleanliness, trash, and how do we get in front of that instead of allowing it to happen and be a blight that reaches and spills across the Pearl? Is there a plan for that?
Yes, so I mentioned the Clean Start program. So those are folks who are out. They're going to be out 7 days a week around the different site. You may have seen them before. They have the barrels that they push around. We'll also have power washing in the immediate vicinity. So we have a contractor that provides that. And then obviously the camp removal. So we'll be picking up trash every single day. We will have the provider walking around the site. We will have outreach workers who are also walking around the site and are able to pick up trash. But we won't just be working right around that vicinity. That will be for the entire neighborhood. So we're not just going to stop within that 1,000 feet. We are doing that graffiti removal, that trash pickup every single day.
How many showers? How many toilets? What's the laundry facility?
So we have 2 showers that are there, so folks will be prioritized for those. We also are building showers within our day services, so folks really appreciate having that option during the day. There are 6 restrooms, so 3 for men, 3 for women. And then what was the other one, Bruce? Laundry services, yes. So we can install laundry services. So we do that with a lot of different providers, and we work with the facility. We also have laundry services through the Impact Reduction Program through Ground Score Association. So they actually launder a lot of our materials for folks who are living outside or in shelters.
So for low barrier shelters, so a Body Box, which is a dance studio that's 536 feet away, and has 800 kids that go to classes or camps there year-round. So is there, when somebody comes to the shelter, is there a screening for sexual predators or sex offenders or those types of individuals?
So folks who are sex offenders must legally register, and we actually work in partnership with PPB, parole, probation, to make sure that we're providing that structure and engaging with them and they're following everything that they need to follow. So yes, we do engage with different individuals to make sure that they are abiding by all the rules.
How do you do that without ID? How do you
But
do that without ID?
okay, we got it. So how do you, I mean, do they have to self-identify or do you, if you're not asking for identification, I guess, how do you find out whether they are or not?
Yeah, so it is a low barrier shelter. So folks are required, as a sex offender, you are required to register, but that low barrier shelter is not going to take the ID. So that is not going to be part of kind of that immediate screening process. We will engage with the individual and then we will try to connect them to different services, their parole probation officer, PPB if we think that's necessary. So that's how we do that.
Okay, so I think I'm as confused as everybody in the audience here. So I'm not, but let's just say I was. One of these individuals. And I come and I want to have shelter. So I don't want to tell you because I want shelter. So is there any way for you to know that other than me telling you?
Yes, because you can look online to see if people are registered.
So you're going to do that with everyone?
And then we also will engage with that individual. So we have caseworkers and we have service providers on site. We're engaging with that person.
Yeah, okay, so I'm with you guys, so I agree. It wasn't satisfactory. Okay, so hold on. Could you just relax? I mean, they want to know if there's going to be a shelter next to your house, Mr. Mayor.
The Moore Street is near my home. It's on Williams and Vancouver. I ride by it. I stop by it often. I stop in and I see the coworkers. I slept there. Is it next to my home? No. Do I have it sheltered on my street, on the street over, abandoned cars and tents? Yes. But the point is and to the sex offender, they have structures, but I want you to let you know, why having a sex offender in a tent or an RV or an abandoned vehicle is any different than providing an opportunity for them to get their life in order as opposed to on the street?
I think some of the frustration is that it's fatigue, it's reporting fatigue. And you've mentioned it earlier, everybody's talked about it. You know, you call and you wait, nobody comes, and so you don't report it. So it goes unreported. So reported crime, I get it, it's probably down. But unreported crime, I think is something that, from the people that have reached out to us that are around those shelters, is there. And the fact that you're having people that steal $30,000, $40,000 automobiles doubling, maybe 40% more, 100% more, doesn't give a lot of confidence for people in the Pearl who park on the street. The people right next to LA Fitness, so they're worried that the cars are going to get smashed, that the windows are going to smash. So, I mean, it's a real concern. I just want to emphasize that so you know. I mean, it already happens now. It's not that it's not happening now. They just don't want it to happen more. One of the comments is we don't see police around, and I live in the north end of the Pearl, and I can't say it's a rare occasion to see a car, but it's not as rare as it used to be. I mean, we see more of it, but there isn't quite the presence that it seems like there was before. And is the city? The question is, why is the city opposed to increase the number of police? And maybe this is a commissioner's or a councilor's question. We have one of the lowest percentages of police per 1,000 residents in the country. Is that correct?
That is correct.
We have one of the lowest officer to citizen ratio in the nation. We're 1.26. The average is 2. So we clearly see that our outcomes are poor performing. We have the lowest arrest rate that I found anywhere, 5%. If 100 property crime events occur, 5 of those individuals will be arrested. When I compare that, we're right there with Oakland, we're right there with St. Louis. This is Portland. I know that you email me often saying this is what's going on, but please, I ask that you email your counselors. You have 3 wonderful representatives here who want to come and visit your business, to your neighborhood. Let them know what's going on, so when we bring forward a budget increase, they understand what you're experiencing, and we can get that budget higher so we can bring the officers on staff, so we can get the call response times lower, because only then can we really start to care for those property crime issues. But right now, we're undermanned. We're going to person-to-person crimes and priority crimes, but the level 2 calls and level 3 calls are being held, and you're waiting too long for basic service. And when we see what they're responding in an inordinate amount of time to those that are living on the street. Let's address that, get rid of that largest call volume, and then move to the next, and we can actually start responding to property crimes when you have the need.
What's being done to reinforce support for the critical employers in the Pearl? And when I'm talking about employers, I'm not just talking about Safeway. There's Whole Foods. There's Ampere Computing that has 300 people down the street. There's On, and there's a number of other small businesses. So what's being done to help them not just survive, but thrive? I mean, prior to the shelter issue, there was a little bit of a revival happening in the Pearl. And as you can probably tell by the number of people here, it's kind of put a pall over the Pearl. So is there something that you're contemplating or gonna do regarding the business community?
We have to be able to respond from a public safety standpoint. It has to be the point when you're walking out for dinner or walking to the store. It's a basic routine in your life, and you're not seeing those suffering on the street. It has to be that when you're going to a movie that you can do that and know that your bike's not going to be stolen during that just basic livability part. So it's restoring trust in public safety. It's restoring the trust in the city that we can provide the safety that you need and the livability that you require. And then businesses will thrive. We thrived for 40 years. We grew. If you put $1 into Portland, you knew you got $1.05 out of it. Today, right now, if you put $1 in, you're ending up with 95 cents the next day. Right. How do we encourage businesses to move to Portland when you're not going to earn income or return on that investment? So that's the basic equation that we're working on. That's that economic activity that we have got to be focused on. It starts with livability and basic public safety system response.
There's a lot of comments that have to do with the fact that this is not a homeless issue, but it's really an addiction and mental health. Right. It's I think somebody said water's wet and rocks are hard and you see what you see. And so what I think everybody is saying is that in our part of the world, our part of Portland, and where we walk to the rest of the area of Portland, because we have 35% seniors. The Pearl was designed to be a walkable city. It's a very walkable city, but people walk in fear today.
Right.
And they walk in fear not because somebody's going to lose their home or their apartment. They're walking in fear because somebody is overdosed on drugs. That's meth instead of fentanyl. So fentanyl, you have the bend. Meth, they're superhuman. Yeah. Like what happened in front of the Metropolitan, where the person just walked down, just punched the lady, broke her nose.
Every day.
So if it's a mental health issue and it's a drug addiction issue, how can we make sure that those people are getting served.
We've been fostering this behavior, but we're not fostering that anymore. The tents you've seen going away. If somebody's released or goes to detox today at Hooper, there's a 20% chance we release them back to the street. And the dealer's waiting for them.
Yep.
And so we've created this cycle. When we release people from the jail, we release them to the street. We're working with the jail now. We're telling them, don't release people to being homeless. We have shelter for you now. We're working with that. Hooper is working with us. The overnight shelter is just simply a stop in the next process to a 24/7 shelter and the process to recovery, or we help them get back home. And it's also having additional recovery. We have 60 dual diagnosis beds that just opened on Burnside. 4D Recovery is opening more beds in the fall. We continue to flood the market with addiction and recovery bed and mental, but if we continue to see unsheltered homelessness grow 1,000 souls every single year, we frankly can't keep up. We've got to stop the inflow and address those that we have on the street and then focus on the outflow and reduce unsheltered homelessness, taking the burden off of our already overburdened public safety system and the treatment system, which is as burdened as well.
Why is the homeless population growing so fast? Is it because the question is, do we treat them too well? And why are we attracted to the homeless population, and particularly the drug population?
Well, we were handing out tents for years. When you foster the behavior you're trying to address, it certainly isn't going to discourage people from coming to the street. We passed Measure 110. We decriminalized the hardest drugs known to man. And then we have an issue with addicts living on the street, stealing for that next hit that they need within an hour. And we're addressing, I can tell you, we're arresting drug users now at levels that we haven't in years. So we have to turn the tide and give our public safety system a chance to get caught up.
The Pearl has had a shelter here for 5 or 6 years called the Navigation Center. And despite the best efforts and best intentions of everybody, it continues to be, some people call it a disaster. I'll call it just a major disappointment. It's a scar on the Nato Parkway, and the people at McCormick Pier, it's just devastated them. And so the question really is, so we've had to practice with that. Why is this going to be any different? They said it was going to be perfect too.
And that's an important question. What's that? Yeah, no, that's a very important question. That's a county managed shelter. I know. But understand, they don't have what the mayor has. I control the public space, and I work with, and the police work at my direction. The county didn't have that. They signed a good neighbor agreement with you without having any public space management, without having access to the street sweepers and the graffiti abatement individuals, or to be able to use the public safety. As the mayor, I have unique opportunity to state, and an officer has been with me when I've been working with you and or Bruce and Bill on the meetings at the facility. At officers, I can bring the officers, and then they can make a promise to you. They will respond. The tent encampments, when somebody posts a tent in your community, Sky will have it removed immediately. The county doesn't have access to the resources the mayor has. That's why the Moore Street is working so well. That's why the Safe Shelter is working so well. And that's why St. Stephen's and Church of Nazarene and Northrop will work so well, because when you have a community issue, they will be addressing it. We will start small, we will make it right, we will meet your needs, and we will exceed your expectations, because we have to.
The Navigation Center was run by the county, but isn't it run by the city now?
Okay, it's a little complicated. So the county holds the provider contract, so they control what happens on the site. The city took the permit for the land, but we do not control the provider that's operating the site. So it's not under our purview in the same way that, like, the Northrop shelter, for example, will be under our purview completely.
So the tents and the cars that sit there for weeks at a time are whose responsibility?
We still ask you to report it, and we still try to get to everything as fast as possible, but it doesn't have the same engagement zone that the mayor's talking about.
Well, okay. There is a car there that's been there for 3 weeks.
We're at a 6-week delay with PBOT right now, but I will put it on the list.
Maybe they should have been up here in an empty chair.